Let's go ahead and close the doors at least partly. On voice control. Welcome everybody to this last seminar of the semester. Today we have Parker Persons, who is no stranger to this department. He finished his undergraduate degree in the department in May of this year. He had already been working in the lab and was interested in the type of research that we do. So after spending much of the summer in Europe, he came back and is now a graduate student in the lab, where he is working on a project in collaboration with people in the physics department to look at the potential of using semi-transparent solar panels on greenhouses to generate power, but at the same time, hopefully control light levels in the greenhouse. And with that, Parker, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, like you said, my name is Parker Persons, and I work in the horticultural physiology lab with Dr. Van Ursel. So the title of this is Greenhouse Application of Semi-Transparent Perovskite Solar Cells. And like I said, we're exploring if this is applicable to put on greenhouses and if it can work well. So a little introduction. As you know, the agriculture industry is a very it's kind of a polluter of greenhouse gas emissions with all like the inputs we use and everything, and especially greenhouses. Not as many greenhouses as there are, field farms and whatnot, but it actually does on ratio. It produces more greenhouse gas emissions than in-field production. So in the automation of greenhouses, greenhouses are becoming more automated every year, which means more electricity needs, and it's getting more advanced every year. And yeah, we need to power all that. So how can we lower this carbon footprint? We're going to explore how we can use semi-transparent photovoltaic solar cells, and this could be the answer to helping lower our footprint. So just a brief introduction on solar panels. They take photons from the sun and convert it into electricity. And how they necessarily work, they'll take photons from the sun and they dislodge electrons, creating a current. And as you can see here, going a little bit more in depth, but there's an inverter, which it'll produce DC power and can change it to AC power. So if you need DC, you can just go direct from the solar panel, or inverter to AC. And so photovoltaics just means like literally light electricity, and that's like the scientific big term for solar panels, basically. So the common solar panels you can see here, you've probably seen these type of solar panels all over the place. Opaque, not transparent at all. And they're actually made out of silicon, which is a semiconductor material. So 95% of the ones you'll see out that are sold are made from silicon. A very abundant resource too in the world. So these are very high. Another reason they use it is very high efficiency, 18-23%, and low cost and a very long lifespan. So now we get into perovskite solar cells, what we are testing. It's a relatively new solar cell technology that they are using that is also a semiconductor material that can replace silicon. And tons of benefits come from these perovskite solar cells. So this is kind of this picture right here kind of shows an idea of what they look like. Some semi-transparency in them, but also absorbing the photons from the sun to produce electricity. So unlike silicon is one single material, and so that's what they use for most of the common ones that you see in most places. But perovskite is actually a group of compounds that share the same crystalline structure, lattice structure. And not gonna get too in depth to this. This is the physics side of things. They have an ABX structure, so they can be multiple different things or multiple different materials that fall under this group of compounds. So the original compound was called calcium titanium oxide, and that's what they found back in the mid 1800s. The scientists, I think last name Perov, and that's why they call it perovskite. So the solar cell material, it's very cheap. It is lightweight and it can actually be more efficient than these silicon cells. So there's a lot of buzz in the scientific community showing and they're excited about testing this out more and utilizing this over silicon. And well, in my research, what I've tested so far, these lead halide perovskites, like I said, they're a group of compounds, you know, a bunch of different things can fall underneath it. And so they have been proven to be most efficient. They're leading the way in this perovskite research. This is just a structure of what a lead halide perovskite is. See lattice structure, crystalline structure there. And so they're the highest power conversion efficiency out of all of them, all the perovskites that have been tested and researched so far. So I have been testing these. That's what the physics department can give me so far. And just another general thing about perovskites, they're tolerant to impurities and defects within them. But silicon, on the other hand, they need to have very high purity to function correctly. So that's another reason that scientists love these, because there is room for error in creating these panels. So semi-transparency characteristic of these panels. They can be semi-transparent perovskite, and really there's a few ways it can, like molar concentrations. You know, a higher concentration of the perovskite material produces less transparency, lower concentration, more transparency. Thin layers versus thick layers. And like the picture I showed earlier, how there was gaps of space in between the strips of perovskite, that can let some light through and create transparency as well. And so there's even there's been instances, and they're looking into this more, of deploying these perovskite materials as windows on large buildings, skyscrapers, and how they can produce energy while also, you know, creating some shade within the space as well. So why can't we do this with greenhouses as well? So greenhouses, so more background. Obviously, they extend the growing season and at ecological costs. Like I said, more electrical needs, and we're getting more automated. So there's going to be increasing electricity needs in the future. So winters get cold and the summers will get hot. So cooling and heating is a big thing. You know, want to keep the plants happy in different seasons. And sun doesn't always shine. Like different parts, you know, you go way up north in the United States, daily light integral is not nearly as high as, you know, down near the equator or whatever. So supplemental lighting needs, and we even use that, you know, in Athens and Georgia too, and all over the place. Supplemental lighting needs are needed as well. So electricity and more electricity. So yeah, this is the idea. I'm gonna get into it now. So the idea is that we use a semi-transparent perovskites either on or just inside of in the greenhouse, and either, you know, permanent structure where maybe there's in a region of the world where there's tons of light, or maybe a retractable or movable structure where they can be retracted and put on and put off whenever they need to have higher light times during the seasons or days. It's benefits electricity. Yeah. And another thing, so not only is electricity production, but this picture right here, this is just a shade cloth inside of a greenhouse. And if you could picture just a retractable or even a permanent perovskite semi-transparent panels there, they can act as shade cloth, which is very important in our greenhouse production. They need lots of different plants need shade and thrive underneath shade. So that's just another application of this. So the chapters of this research, chapter 1, we have been doing photosynthetic response of this lettuce underneath different concentrations of these lead halide perovskites. So this physics department, we're actually going to test a couple different perovskite compounds that they're going to give us, but so far only have done one. And we're doing photosynthetic simulations of different regions of the country, and it can give us recommendation for deployment of them, or if growers can use them as permanent structures. And then chapter 2 is a lettuce growth study underneath these panels, and this would be in a greenhouse, and or like if we can't get large enough panels, we're going to have to find a system that mimics the transmittance of these panels underneath to get data on what could happen with growth underneath these panels. So getting into the chapter 1 of it, kind of an overview. This is this little gun right here is a portable photosynthesis machine, and it clamps onto a leaf. And I know this is not lettuce, but took this yesterday to give an idea. And clamps onto a leaf, and it tells you a bunch of different parameters, what's going on within the plant. And it's kind of the idea of, they gave us 3 different concentrations, doubling each time of the perovskite between a glass substrate. We had a control panel, which was just a clear 2 glass substrates, nothing in them. And I would start with the lowest micromoles per meter per second per square per second, and as low as I could get with the LEDs above them, and then I would double it each time. But at each PPFD, I would put the panel underneath and take a measurement of it, and take the photosynthetic data measurement of it. And basically, so this is more picture to visualize this. Hanging above this, there's 2 LED lights on pulley systems, and so like they'd be very high. With the lowest PPFD, we have this voltage increase thing where we would, get the more power into to get the PPFD higher. And I would have the pulley system to lower these lights down to get as close to mimic sunlight as possible. Just as close to the thing as possible at full power. And like sunlight's about 2,000 micromoles meter square per second. And so I try to get as close to that as possible and creating a light response curve. So I got up to about 1,750 PPFD. And this is just what you see on the other end of this gun, a bunch of different parameters. And A, assimilation rate, I'll use assimilation rate and photosynthetic rate interchangeably. They are the same thing. And right here, the A is what we are most worried about when making these light response curves. Because we're measuring photosynthetic photon flux density, which is light intensity, versus the photosynthetic rate. The materials and methods. This is just a picture of some of the lettuce that I grew in the grow chamber for this study. So we're using Green Towers lettuce cultivar, and they're grown in a walk-in chamber. Treatments, like I mentioned, these are different molar concentration treatments of methyl ammonium lead iodide perovskite. That's a lead halide perovskite material that's in between those the glass substrates, and then the control clear panel right here. So they go 0.06, 0.12, 0.24. And the measurements we took were, like I showed on the device, assimilation rate, photosynthetic rate, and I would double PPFD each time and take the measurement so we could see the light response curve on the graph, and I'll show you those in a second. And then we took a transmittance underneath the panels where I used a LI core spectroradiometer and tested the transmittance of light through these panels to see what's really happening through them. Another picture of some younger lettuce there, the grow chamber. And this is just idea what they look like too. This one's a clear one, just 2 glass substrates between, or with nothing in them, and then lowest concentration 0.06, 0.12, and then 0.24. You see how they get darker. And I did these little squares of tape around them so that I could have as least error in the data collection as possible, so I could measure the same exact part of the panel each time. So this is just a picture of the spectroradiometer I used to measure the transmittance through them. I'd put the panels right up here, and we would I would take data underneath like a LED light system, and that's how we got the transmittance data. So you see here, this is control, blue, and then orange, least concentration, yellow, highest. Control basically, it's letting about 89% total light through, and in every single visible wavelength of the spectrum is letting through about the same amount. And if you look at the panels with the perovskite between them, they're letting a lot less blue light in. Besides, they're blocking more blue light and letting a lot more red light in. And as you can see, it just the total light transmitting through it decreases as you increase the concentration of the perovskite there. So yeah, it is it's interesting that they're letting a lot more red and far red light in than the blue light, and that's I'll show you what happens with that later on. So these are the results. I did 6 replications of light response curves of the study with changing each panel underneath the same PPFD. And as you can see here, this is a good one to look at. They all follow basically the same trend. And as you can see here, at very similar PPFDs, the ones with perovskite in them are actually performing a little better. The photosynthesis rate is a little bit higher underneath them, which is very interesting because if I go back here, you can see like this is not far off at all, and it's producing it's more photosynthesis happening on even a little bit lower light intensity than the clear control one. So if I go back to here, like I said, the blue, it's letting a lot less blue light in than red light. And so could be explained that way is that red light, far red, are used a lot more efficiently by plants to photosynthesize, and blue light is not used as efficiently. So there could be, with the clear ones, there could be an instance where the blue light might be interfering a little bit with photosynthesis rates, and with the perovskite, the ratio of red light to blue light is a lot higher. As you can see, same trends here on both of these. And yeah, so 5 out of 6 of them showed this, and then of course I did the 6th one and it didn't show exactly what I wanted. But yeah, I'll show something else here. So at the lower PPFDs, micromoles meters squared per second, you increase it a little bit and you can see the high jump in photosynthesis rate, assimilation rate, from that. There's small increase in light intensity. But then if I get about 500, 600 or more and go down the line, you really don't see that much of an increase in photosynthesis rate. So this is a good thing. So like, there's a lot of light. Deploying these act as, they'll lower the PPFD of the sunlight coming through the greenhouse, but it really will not affect photosynthesis much at all. It'll be very negligible. So you're still getting that benefit of electricity production over in comparison to plant growth. I discussed a lot of these, but yes, so the concentrated perovskite, they had performed a lot better than we expected. And it could be, like I said, blue light is getting blocked more in the perovskite panels, but also there's a synergistic effect that has been studied with far red light, and since far red light is let in like a lot through these perovskite in a higher ratio, could be that synergistic effect with the other wavelengths of light, and that's why we maybe are seeing the higher assimilation rates, photosynthesis rates under the perovskite panels besides the control ones. So after a certain photosynthetic photon flux density, like I showed you, photosynthesis just doesn't increase much of the arrows on the graph that I showed you. So that's a good thing with deploying, as a shade cloth, because it won't drastically affect the assimilation and photosynthesis rates of the plants. They can perform normally while your greenhouse is getting assisted in power production by these solar panels. So what's next for this chapter of the research? We're gonna do the same experiment, but with different perovskite compounds. And so far, I understand that we're only doing this lead halide perovskites, but that could change. And it's really just dependent on what the physics department has for us and what they've been researching and what works in the solar panel perovskite industry that us horticulturists don't know a ton about creating them. So yes. And this is just PhD student that I've been working with, Jizan, in the physics department. She had sent me this graph, and so this is methyl ammonium lead iodide. This is methyl ammonium lead bromide, and so they're interested in the absorbance because that's energy production within the physics. They're producing energy with these solar panels. And as you can see here, this is the one we tested in red so far, and the blue one is what I am getting ready to test here in a few weeks. And you can see that, like in the in the red, far red range over here, it is, you can see a much higher dip over here and like transmitting light through that. It's not getting absorbed, it's absorbed. So it's getting transmitted through the perovskite panel or the material. And so when I test this, I'm expecting to see even more drastic increases in photosynthesis rates under similar PPFD as like a control panel, like I showed before. So yeah, that's promising too. It's helping the plants almost. And so the photosynthesis simulations that I mentioned, that's a part of this chapter of research. This is a spreadsheet that Dr. Van Ursula created started. And so here, I'll go through the whole thing, but here is just typical data from what we've only done Athens so far, almost done with it. And this is just typical weather data over 30 years of data collection. And there's some algorithm they use to find typical days. Like you'll see dates are different years and whatnot over here. And this is showing like if these were fixed panels over here on the green. Remember I talked about retractable versus a fixed on the greenhouse. So if these were fixed, this would show like if this is 80% transmittance, which is a very low concentration of the perovskite, or up to 20, which is a higher concentration, it'll show what the effect is on the PPFD coming into the greenhouse, and if it's even like feasible to use these in that month, or whether you should deploy them or have them on a retractable system or fixed or not. And we're working on having like an if then else statement here, where like it'd be after, like I showed you, the 500 PPFD would, like when you increase more than that, it's like photosynthesis rates it's negligible, it's not increasing very much. And so this is like, we'll just show like over the certain threshold of PPFD, then you can deploy, it'll like tell you that it'll deploy the panel then, and then it'll show how it is affecting the light coming through. So the goal is typical weather data. And we're in different parts of the country to show what's like how it differs in different parts of the country and whether it's even feasible to use it in one part versus the other. And so I'm taking the photosynthesis data from my light response curves. And then we're going to crunch all this data into the spreadsheet that I just showed you. It'll look a lot prettier once it's all done. And then it also, like, it simulates the deployment of these panels if it is like if you want to use a retractable system, if that's going to be feasible for that area of the country or world that you're going to be in. And so we want to share the spreadsheet with anybody and everybody, so they could use it in different parts of the world if they want to simulate this to see what's going to happen with utilizing these panels on greenhouses. And yes, like I said, it tells growers at certain locations if it's even feasible in different regions. So this is a map of the United States, and so with this photosynthesis simulation spreadsheet, we've already almost done with Athens, Georgia, but I wanted to get a few different data from different regions of the world, or I mean of the country. So Maine, we want to like go most northern part of the United States, Maine, and then down to Long Island, which is a big greenhouse hub over here, Ohio as well. Obviously Athens, because it's the center of the universe. And then Apopka, Florida, which they grow another greenhouse hub. They grow a bunch of shade crops and shade plants there. And then in Arizona, I just want to see what happens in like a desert with it. The sun shines all the time there. So I want to see what's going on there as well. So we think that this would be a great representation of how these could be used in different parts of the country, or if they shouldn't be used in different parts of the country. And the reason why it's so important is just daily light integrals. Like you can see in the wintertime, up north is getting a lot less light than down here. And especially like in June, you see that even, so I picked Arizona too, because they're getting like a crazy amount of light in the summer. So they'll probably, they could even want to have it fixed on the greenhouse the whole time, and it would be fine and produce just fine crops. So this is just a picture of like I just wanted y'all to visualize if the panels like were on a greenhouse and they could be either fixed on it, like maybe in Arizona would be a good place to have them fixed, and it would also produce or have shade benefits too with the plants underneath it that require a little bit more shading. And like tomatoes, they need a lot of sunlight, so maybe not tomato production in certain parts would be a good idea, but retractable. And then if you can imagine they're inside a retractable system, and this is just kind of visualizing them on greenhouses, but just picture them as a semi-transparent perovskite panel letting light through besides getting that big, probably dark patch underneath here. All right, and then chapter 2 of the research overview of it. This right here, I thought was a great picture because it's kind of exactly what I want to mimic. It's a tiny little greenhouse, and it's unfortunately probably not possible because we don't think the physics department will be able to give us big enough panels, but have a lettuce study underneath them where we just have a box and we're growing them in a greenhouse and put the panels all around it and see what happens with that. We'll test, length, height of the plants and everything and see what's really going on. And this is just another example of like what would be put on this on the sides and tops of this as the material. Materials and methods, same lettuce. We're going to use green towers all the full way through these studies. And besides running in the grow chamber this time and doing the photosynthesis measurements with the gun, they're going to be growing in the greenhouse, like I said, with the box around them. And the treatments will be the same, but we'll probably do different perovskite compounds, whatever the physics department's going to give us. Like so far, we got 2 that they have ready for us, and or like have tested and want us to use. And so the measurements, height and length of the leaves and everything. See what happens. And like I said, the limitation is that the physics department probably cannot give us large enough samples to do this. And just for reference, this is one of the panels, and this is my hand like this, holding it. And that's basically the biggest they can give us with it being uniform. And so it's just, unless we would tape them all together, which is not going to work, then we were going to need to find something else to mimic this. The possible solutions to this will be finding a large fill material. We've looked on Amazon and we've seen some stuff we're about to order to see what the transmittance through them is going to be and seeing how closely it mimics these perovskite panels. So that is one possible solution. And this is a last resort because we I don't believe have any technology right now that could mimic LED fixtures that will mimic the transmittance underneath these panels. So that's just a last resort. I might try to see if we could do that, but probably not. But we're confident that we'll find a film material close enough to get meaningful data. So will it work? We're currently trying to figure that out, and we'll probably be able to do it. And so the concluding statement, we really just hope to provide meaningful data that will show the benefits of using these semi-transparent perovskite cells, either as a retractable system or a permanent system on top of greenhouses, and by allowing them to grow fine and acting as a shade cloth. And although we're in the beginning stages of this research, the data that I showed you looked very promising, and the photosynthesis measurements so far of these plants actually looked even better underneath the perovskite almost. So. And then acknowledgements are the very kind and smart people of the physics department here at UGA, and then also the UGA presidential seed grant funding for all the funds for this project. And thank you guys for your time, and if any questions. Yes.
So these panels are supposed to create like electricity, correct?
Yes, they are.
So would the wires be going through them? And that's how they're connected to like create the energy? Those panels don't have like anything in them. They're just testing.
Right,
to,
yeah.
like go through, not if they're like actually adequate on also like creating the energy.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, I know that they're going to have to wire it somehow, but I never really thought about that, honestly, with the wiring going through it. But I'm sure they're giving me these samples, so I would assume they have a way to not block the absorbing parts of it that are trying to absorb the photon and produce the electricity.
Yeah, they can just attach a wire to two sides of the panel. The wiring doesn't have to go through the panel.
Okay. Okay, well,
The
that
panel panels don't generate electricity.
Yeah.
They just use the same material.
okay, see. That's a good point, though.
Are you gonna like simulate the power generation capabilities based on the deployment times and stuff like that?
I
How much
think,
electricity?
didn't we, like with the spreadsheet, we're thinking, once we get data from the department of physics, maybe we would try to maybe incorporate that.
Yeah, I think we can relatively easily do it, but there are other members who are part of this team who are doing much more advanced simulations than anything we can do.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, we like, I don't really know anything yet about how much energy these are producing. But I think with these samples, the efficiency is pretty low. Just not made perfectly and everything. Yes.
How long is it taking the physics department to create these samples? Like, have they been working on this prior to you wanting to work with them?
Yeah, I believe that they have been working on different materials that they have been testing, like most efficient perovskite materials. And yeah, they definitely been working with the perovskite. I don't know about how, I'm not sure if they've been working on trying to make them more transparent so that we can use them on greenhouses until this study started, but they definitely have been researching the efficiency of different perovskite compounds.
And then I kind of had a follow-up about something else. When you were talking about measuring PPFT and you said like the sun emits about like, I think it was around 2000.
Yeah.
You got up to 1750. What was your limitation to going further? Was that like the last doubling increment that you could do?
Yeah, I guess, well, I would have tried to get it like right at 2000, but the setup I had, well, even when the lights, I mean, I wish I had a picture that the lights were like, the plants right here and the lights were like, I was like reaching under trying to like take the data measure or whatever. But yeah, I got it as close as possible to setup I had, and I couldn't get it to 2000. It would like stop at 1750. But it really, like with the data we were trying to get, it doesn't matter to get it up that high. It just because we're doing the light response curves, and if I got it up even to that, it would have just, like you saw, it was leveling out. So we got the light response curves that showed that these are the perovskite is performing well underneath them, or the plants are performing well underneath the perovskite. Yes.
I was curious, for the interception that you're getting from this, does it correlate to any like known values for shade cloth? So we can say you're used to putting out 20% shade, use the
Oh yeah.
2 molar one, or
Yeah, I guess with the transmittance, like the graphs I showed there, like the total at the bottom was like how much light is allowed, like is getting allowed to go through it. So I think that, yeah, that
you kind of do like.
yeah, I think that would be like, I think the high, like for the lowest concentration was like around 60% letting light through, so that'd be what, 40% shade.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I can add, I would, that's a good point, I can add that in too, but that's what I would assume is it would be about 40% shade on that, and then, you know, how much light is getting transmitted through. The opposite of that is what's getting shaded.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if you get more stretching or less stretching depending on what.
Right.
Right, the quality or what's needed.
Right. Yeah, and the growth study would be great for that too, like in the perovskite compound we've already tested, the blue light wasn't getting through very nearly as much as the red light, so we could see, like, you know, longer besides thicker and shorter plants, probably longer leaves and stuff, because the red light is getting through more than blue light.
What's really neat about these perovskites is that you can make them into flexible materials, and they can actually apparently just print solar panels using a regular inkjet printer. But it's beyond my brain, but they keep talking about printing solar panels, so that's, I think, pretty neat.
Yeah.
You may want to talk a little bit about the limitations of the solar panels that they provide us?
Oh, yes, yeah, they're like, this big, that's like the biggest that they can get them, and like when they're spinning them, they don't have the most advanced, or they don't have the most expensive technology advanced probably to get the great uniformity on them, so there is gonna be parts of the panels where they're not as uniform as other parts, or maybe some part is more concentrated. And but yeah, they just can't create them big enough.
And how do they hold up?
Oh, yes, they don't hold up after a few months of, not putting them in great storage. You extend them if you put them in proper storage, but they will start to degrade. Like, I had some panels, I tried to use them again after I went to Europe this summer, because I started this at the end of like April, and I tried to use the same panels, but I come back and it looked like a worm had like gone through the panel and like moved all the compound aside. So they don't hold up, like water, definitely moisture, that they don't hold up that well to them. But that, I also just think, like, if they're gonna be commercializing these, I also think that it's just the way that they're creating them in the lab, because they gotta be able to hold up. And like, yeah, because like like I showed you the picture of them, they're very, makeshift. They glued 2 plates of glass together, and they're holding up as best as they can right now, but I'm sure like commercializing them would make them hold up way better than that.
Are there any heavy metals and commercial ones right now? I mean, the batteries, but not in the material, right? I mean, you have to worry about heavy metal contamination in the future.
Yeah, I actually did read something recently where it was saying that, like, they were like, unfortunately, the lead halide perovskites are the most efficient, because they were like, lead is not good for the environment. And so they're just like, wow, that's very unfortunate that this one is the most efficient energy production wise. So yeah, I'm sure there is, I haven't read too much about that, but I'm sure there is implication for like heavy metal contamination at some point. Yeah. Also, I don't know if they like turn this lead into, I don't know. That's on the physics side. I don't know if they like, it's not as, bad for the environment or something. But yes, that is an area of concern that I was reading about the other day.
Maybe less toxic.
Bromine's not great.
Yeah. right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the combination of lead and food crops.
Yeah.
Right. So
But yeah, that's something that the physics people need to solve.
Well, they can feel it. I mean, yeah, I feel like the other ones probably have, the batteries at least would have lead in them. I mean, or, I don't know.
Lithium typically,
Lithium,
yeah.
okay.
Lead batteries that's pretty old fashioned technology at this point.
that's a good point to bring up to the physics department, just because what I understand is that the lead compounds of these are the most efficient, and that's why they're creating these ones besides other. Because like I said, perovskite is like falls in a big category of the same crystalline structure with different compounds.
So there are other perovskite compounds that are less toxic, but they're just not
Yes.
as
They're just not, as nearly as efficient. But there's a lot of research going on now, because it is relatively new. This all this research with all the new advanced technology we have right now, I'm sure that they will eventually find something in the middle ground, or something completely new that will be more efficient.
Yeah, these panels are used in commercial buildings, so I assume that they have some kind of a solution for the
Yeah.
toxicity issue, but I don't know what it is.
That maybe,
So there are commercial, like, perovskite panels.
Yes.
Yeah, like let us, like, probably in very a rich person's building or something, they would put perovskite on the windows, and that would help power the offices, skyscrapers, condos, or whatever. And but also, can act as a tent on the window to not blind you by the light.
The ones that are commercialized, they're just not as like see-through, so they wouldn't be good. Try testing those, or
I have not, but a lot of the ones, I do think they are more concentrated, because mainly they're worried about producing electricity, but and like less transparent. But the ones that I've seen have been at least somewhat transparent, all of them. But there probably, I think there is like, you know, just super thick layers of it that are not letting anything through, but
We can definitely see if we can get samples from commercial companies.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, because if they have big ones, you know.
Yeah.
right, and they want their name in the paper.
Yeah. Call it that rep, see who gets it.
Exactly, yeah,
Like the department, get moving.
yeah.
More questions in the room here? Not, do we have questions from anyone on Zoom? And I don't know if the volume is turned up. Anyone on Zoom? No? And I think no more questions. No?
Allowed to.
Well, then it sounds like we're ready. Thank you, Parker.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.